What do we do after eating out at a restaurant or buying a drink at a bar? We tip. Why do we tip? Gratitude. I'm grateful for the service. Empathy. I recognize that servers make more from tips than they do from salary. Social convention. In Canada and the United States, it's a social norm to tip. We don't tip because it's a nice thing to do. It's not the right thing to do. We do it because tipping is normal. It's expected. Whether we tip 5%, 10%, 20%, before tax, after tax, I'm not interested. Are we asked to tip? No. We just do it. It is a social convention. What about giving? What about giving to charity? Is it a social convention that the vast majority of us practice without being asked? Note that I am not asking if people give to charity. We know the answer to that question is yes. We know that today most people give when asked. I'm asking whether charity in 2012 is practiced as a matter of personal routine. So today, I want to talk about charity and how we interact with it from a donor-centric perspective. So first, let's zoom way out and get out of our short-term mentality. We're going to start in the Middle Ages in England. We see a world that is dominated by religion, Christianity. Giving is central to all major religions. Christianity is no exception. In a Christian context, principles like tithing, first fruits, and stewardship come to mind. If you tithe, you give a portion of your income to charity as a rule, as an obligation. First fruits, it's the notion that you offer up your best, your first and your best, to the benefit of a greater good. Stewardship, stewardship is the idea that you are only an agent, a temporary manager of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Because all of these assets belong to a cause that is greater than yourself. People in the Middle Ages understood and practiced these concepts. When giving is a matter of social convention, excuses like, I'll give later, when I earn more money, or after I've paid back my student loans, or my credit cards, they don't cut it. The reason is because when you give as a matter of social convention, you give off the top. Okay? You give from what you earn before even thinking about spending. Giving is part of your budget. It's part of your costs of goods sold. And it is taken not from what you have left over after you have taken care of yourself. Now, in the Middle Ages, the church was really the only place you could give. And this made it really easy for people. Okay? They knew exactly where to give and how. In the Middle Ages, giving was a social norm. Giving was easy. Everybody gave. Like tipping today, giving was then a form of social tax. Now, let's jump forward several hundred years. Although less so when compared to the Middle Ages, the church still heavily influences Western society. So people still have plenty of context to learn about giving and giving culture. Concepts like the tithe, stewardship, first fruits are widely normed, and they inform people's mindsets and actions. But the church is no longer the sole beneficiary of people's charity. There are now many charities to give to: hospitals, universities, orphanages. Increased choice is good for charity, right? On the one hand, it provides more assurance to the donor that they can directly influence the cause they're interested in. That's a good thing. On the other hand, choice complicates our interaction with giving for giving's sake. When you don't do all your giving through one place, each time you give, you're actually making two decisions. Am I going to sacrifice my money for the sake of giving? And number two, how am I going to allocate those limited sacrificial funds to which charities and why? In the post-industrial revolution era, prominent entrepreneurs like John Rockefeller, who gave as a matter of convention, knew that making two decisions simultaneously would not return as good results as making one focused decision followed by a second focused decision. So Rockefeller and other wealthy people of his era sought to solve this double decision giving problem. He asked, with so many charities to choose from, where am I going to put the money I know I want to give away when I don't know which exact charities to fund? The solution? Corporate vehicles whose purposes are entirely charitable. This is something the charity world refers to as a foundation. Foundations capture donations right away, and they issue a tax receipt. So they act like a bank account for money that is for exclusively charitable purposes. The foundation empowers donors by enabling them to give as a matter of practice and to do so very easily in one place. Donors become more effective over time because they give first and allocate second. They are able to spend more time thinking about which specific charities will benefit from the charitable dollars they have already parted with. They start allocating based on the merits of the charities they have learned about, and not just because they were asked for money. So here we are in 2012. So let's look back at some more recent history. The past several decades. What are the major big picture trends? First of all, a massive decline in religion. Our communities are becoming more and more secular. What does this mean? What it means is that concepts like the tithe, stewardship, and first fruits become more and more ambiguous. As less people grow up with religion, fewer people learn that giving should play a central factor in our lives. But we know that people are giving here and there, right? So what's happening? Who's picking up the slack? The government? Nope. They want tax dollars. Schools? Barely. They don't have the tools. Corporations? Not yet. The answer? Fundraising. Over the last 20 years, you've seen a massive increase in fundraising. What is fundraising? Okay? Fundraising is the sales and distribution arm of charity and a critical part of the charitable sector. Why do charities fundraise? To raise money and awareness for themselves so that they can fund their own charitable activities, right, in pursuit of their objects and purposes. Will fundraising teach us about charity? Well, fundraising teaches us about specific causes and problems in the world that need solving. Okay? But its real purpose is not teaching people about giving for giving's sake. Fundraising is about charities, not charity. The last thing you see is a major increase in the number of charities. There's over 85,000 charities in Canada. In the US, well over 1 million. The good news is that you're very likely, as a donor, to find a good charity that does something you're interested in. The bad news is that as a donor who hasn't grown up giving, it's hard to know where or how to start. It's intimidating. Because of this, many people don't start. In 2012, the majority of us only give when we are asked. Giving is not a social convention. So what does the future of charity look like from a donor-centric perspective? I have a cynical view and an optimistic view. From the cynical view, the future of charity can look grim. I imagine an improbable donor who has never been taught the value of giving for giving's sake. He is increasingly resistant to charity because every street he walks down, he sees another clipboard-toting street fundraiser. At work, he feels pressured to give around Christmas when the CEO wants to out-donate the competition. And his friends who are running for this or running for that are sending him donation requests more and more frequently. These solicitations are all about the Donate Now button and provide little or no context for why they are asking for money. If the improbable donor gives to an asking friend, he does so not because of the charity, but because of his friend. But it's easier to say no all the time than it is to say no part of the time, and as a result, the improbable donor retreats further from giving. But it doesn't have to be like that, even though, to be honest, I meet more and more people every year who fit the description. When I think from my optimistic worldview, the world of charity is full of opportunity and rebirth. When I think of fundraising, I think of discovery. People learning about charities that they never knew existed. And I think about reporting and accountability coming from charities in the form of real-time storytelling so that donors can no longer complain about not knowing how their money is spent. I think of grassroots activists and champions who do inspirational things on behalf of charities, sharing how and why they want, how and why they are asking for money, so that they truly inspire the donation they're asking for. And I think about a world where it is easy to give. And this takes us back to Rockefeller and the creation of the foundation. In a world so full of charities and solicitation, it is more important to be able to separate the act of giving, parting with your money, from the act of deciding which charities to benefit. It helps us to manage, to budget, to understand, to enjoy our giving, to be cheerful givers. So in 2012, we must democratize the foundation. Everyone must have access to their own bank account for giving, not just the wealthy. So every day, I work to evolve something that is becoming like a bank account that is exclusively about charitable impact, where anyone can have an account that only takes a minute to create. I call it CHIMP, from charitable impact. When you have your own bank account for charity that is mobile with the web, charity can easily integrate into your everyday life. You can always donate in one place, so it's easy. You give anytime, anywhere, knowing you can still choose the charities later. You never lose tax receipts. When you donate into your charitable bank account, your employer can match you. So can your grandma. Your account follows you through every transaction you make in life. So when you shop, stores can support you and the charitable impact you want to make, rather than the other way around, as it is generally today. You can transfer money to your kids as a charitable allowance, so they get to give it away themselves, learning as they go. If you want to send money to a friend for them to give away as a thank you for buying you dinner, you can do that too. Whether we give out of gratitude or empathy, whether we give 1%, 5%, 10% of what we make before or after tax, none of this detail is up to me. It is up to you to decide whether giving is important and how much to give, and whether giving will be part of your routine. My job is to make giving easy, to remove the barriers of accessibility and participation, perceived or real. I aspire to make giving a part of our social convention, like it was in the Middle Ages. I want us all to rediscover giving. For those out there interested in the facilitation side of charity, I leave you with one final thought. 8 out of 10 new companies that hit the charitable marketplace are focused on refining fishing techniques, right? On fundraising for charities. New and better fishing techniques are important, and there is certainly a lot of opportunity there. But who is working to restock the pond?